Hello, everybody. Welcome to Amar's Game Chat. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. I'm Amar, and today I just wanted to record this video talking about the Nintendo Switch 2, as we are now 2 weeks post the Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Direct. And there's been a lot of information since I recorded my last video talking mainly about the Nintendo Direct, about the Nintendo Switch 2, including the games that we're going to be getting, the games that will be releasing on it that we saw announced in the Direct that now we have a lot more footage about. We've seen a lot more of the game itself, and yeah, so if you all enjoy this video, please feel free to comment down any of your own thoughts on Nintendo Switch 2 since the Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Direct, and leave a like on this video. But without further ado, let us get right into it. Now, before I fully start this video, I do also want to say that I am recording this a little bit early on April 12th. So if any information happens between April 12th and April 16th, I just wanted to say that I wasn't able to cover that in this video. I will likely make another video about that. But with the Mario Kart World Nintendo Direct also coming up on April 17th, I want to get a predictions out for that. So I want to make sure I could get this video out for the 2 week mark, as well as the predictions for the Mario Kart World Direct, and obviously a reaction to the Mario Kart World Direct. So that's a lot to do. So I just wanted to record this a little bit earlier, just so I could have it ready to go. But yeah, let's get right into it again. So there's a lot to talk about for the Nintendo Switch 2. Obviously, I am very, very, very excited for it. Thinking back to it, with back to like all the lead up for all the consoles that I've been really just like able to console lead ups that I've been able to like fully dive into. I think this is the one I'm the most excited for. Like I've been the most excited for with the Nintendo Switch. I think it is. I think I was excited for that one, but there was just a lot. I think I just have a lot more excitement for this one. I don't really know why. It could be the games. Obviously, we know that there is a new Mario Kart at launch. There is a Donkey Kong game pretty much a month and a half after launch. We have a new Kirby Air Riders, which will be Kirby Air Ride, named Kirby Air Riders, which will be my first time ever playing something, Kirby Air Ride or Kirby Air Riders, the sequel to Kirby Air Ride. And we have a new Hyrule Warriors, but we also have other games coming out on Nintendo Switch too. We have Street Fighter 6. We have a new game from Software, which I'm not like someone that plays From Software games that often, but it's still really cool to see that, a new From Software game exclusive to Nintendo Switch 2. I think that's really fun. We have obviously like Split Fictions coming to Nintendo Switch 2. We have games like Elden Ring. Speaking of From Software, Elden Ring. So we just have a lot of games coming to Nintendo Switch 2. Inevitably, we're probably gonna get another Nintendo Direct at some point this year, detailing games for 2026. Maybe if we have one more game for this year, detailing that. But there's just a lot going on. I think with this Direct, I think it set it up to where we have a bunch of really cool, really interesting games. And that's the same thing that the January 2017 presentation did for the Nintendo Switch. But I think just being able to, sit back, watch that Direct, watch all the Treehouse after the fact, be excited for the games during that Direct, but then also like become a lot more excited for the games during Treehouse. I think it's just everything that's combined so far into this, this like lead up to Nintendo Switch 2, as well as like before even Nintendo Switch 2 was announced or the Direct, all of the speculation that we could have, seeing that it was like in a similar form factor as the Nintendo Switch. So what would they do different? Now we know it has a USB Type-C at the top of the console. It can have a USB Type-C camera. I'm assuming that USB Type-C is also probably gonna be used for like other accessories. I think they confirmed that in the Direct. There's gonna be a lot of different other accessories that you could plug into the console, and you can just use those. I'm not really sure what those will be yet. There's always been the mock-ups of being able to attach like a second screen to the top of the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm not really sure that's ever gonna happen. That seems like it would be very expensive. Because if it is the top screen, it would need to be a screen that obviously handles 120 FPS, and it would have to be like 1080p and everything. So that seems like it would be a little too much of an expensive accessory. But it could always happen, if they do Nintendo Switch. Well, it's not even called Nintendo Switch online classics anymore. I think it's just called Nintendo Switch Classics, or just the console classics. So if they ever do like Nintendo DS classics on the Nintendo Switch too, maybe that could happen. But I think the screen is now big enough where they could split it into like two halves. Though, I mean, I guess we'll just have to see. I mean, it's possible Nintendo DS and Nintendo 3DS just never come over to NSO, and they do a lot of remakes, remasters of those games. But we haven't even gotten to GameCube yet. GameCube is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, online system exclusively, but for expansion pack members. But we haven't even gotten there yet. I haven't been able to experience Wind Waker on the Nintendo Switch 2 or F-Zero GX, which would be my first time ever playing F-Zero GX 2, or even Super Strikers. They've confirmed that Strikers will be the next game, I believe, on the Nintendo Switch 2 GameCube Classics, which will be very fun. I've been playing Battle League a little bit recently. Maybe two, maybe it's because Strikers from the GameCube is on my mind a little bit. But, that game is fun. I'm expecting, I hear a lot more praise for the GameCube and the Wii game, so I'm very excited to play those. But I did play the Wii game. I played the Wii Super Mario Strikers, so I know that one. But I wasn't ever really able to play the GameCube one. I wasn't ever able to play F-Zero GX, which I was, hoping in the before, in previous direct prediction videos, and just in the lead up for from 2023, or I guess 2022 to 2025, in the most recent March Nintendo Direct for the Nintendo Switch 1. I was hoping to hear about F-Zero GX remastered. Now we know it's coming to GameCube, NSO, GameCube Classic, so it's not going to be like the remastered remake that I think a lot of us were thinking it may be, but still, I think that's going to be really exciting for a lot of people to be able to play F-Zero GX, to return to that game, and for me to be able to play it for the first time, which is going to be very, very fun. But yeah, I think there's been a lot of, discussion about Nintendo Switch 2 since the Direct. There's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs. I'm still as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this video, I'm very excited for this console. We are, if I remember right, we are 54 days away from the console's launch, because we are 56 on Thursday. So at the time of recording this, we are 54 on the day of uploading this. We will be 50 days. So that's actually very cool. We are 50 days away from the Nintendo Switch 2 releasing. I think that's just, it's a really monumental day. We are also 2 weeks away from the Direct. 2 weeks post that Direct. So a lot is happening today, but I'm very, very excited. I wanted to make this video for a little while now. I was planning to upload it last week, or at least record it last week. Maybe I still upload it this week, but just because we've obviously seen a lot more of Mario Kart World in the Treehouse, and since the two Treehouse days since that Direct, so there's been a lot more to talk about Mario Kart World. We have a Mario Kart World Nintendo Direct coming up really, really soon. At the time of uploading this, again, tomorrow we have a Mario Kart World Direct. We've seen a lot more Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is something I really want to talk about because that game looks absolutely amazing. I don't think the trailer and the Direct really gave it the justice that the Treehouse segments have, and we've been able to see through the Nintendo Switch 2 experiences and the press events. The game looked really good in the Direct, but in my mind I was like, oh, okay, this is like a smaller, maybe bite-sized 3D adventure for Donkey Kong. No. This game is absolutely, there's a lot of discussion about when the next 3D Mario is coming out, and who's working on Donkey Kong Bonanza. This is absolutely the next game from that studio in my mind. It does look a lot like Odyssey in the first place, but this game is huge, it seems. I think in the Treehouse they were referred to, you're on the 10th level, the 10th sub layer, when the game starts and you're trying to get up to like I guess the first sub layer, like the top of the the map. And so we already know there's like 10 sections you can go through. There's probably more. There's if it's anything like Odyssey, we might go back to like other in Super Mario Odyssey, you could go back to like the Peach's Castle in the Mushroom Kingdom. Maybe we'll be able to go somewhere that's like Donkey Kong Country. Something like some locations from the Donkey Kong Country games, which will be very, very fun, very, very cool to experience. But even without that, we have 10 different layers, it seems, at least, of the world that we can go through and destroy and pick up and make rocks and throw everywhere. We have a bunch of bananas we can now collect, crystal bananas. It looks like a really, really good game. For the longest time, this channel was named Generic Cappy, and so that was based on my love for Super Mario Odyssey. And now we're getting something that's like very much falling in the vein of it, at least visually. Obviously not mechanically, because we're able to. This game is a lot more. I think they call it, like, back then. I think now we still call Super Mario Odyssey like an open world sandbox, the open area sandbox. This feels like more of a sandbox game because you're able to like do a lot more in the world. You're able to modify it. You're able to climb up walls. You're able to destroy like areas that you get to certain certain crystal bananas or get certain secrets. So this feels like a lot more boxy, which I'm very, very excited. And I think the coolest thing, it's not even the game with the game itself, like what you're playing. It's out a month and a half after the console releases, so we're gonna be able to play Mario Kart for a couple weeks, month and a half. We're gonna have our Nintendo Switch 2 welcome tour. We're gonna have obviously Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo Switch 2 editions. We're gonna have a couple third-party games here and there. I think Split Fiction is there at launch. Obviously, I think Street Fighter 6 is there at launch. The Bravely Default remaster remake is also there at launch. But we get to Donkey Kong on July 17th, I believe, and that's just like we're going from a huge Mario Kart game to a huge Mario like adjacent 3D Mario adjacent in the vein of like Super Mario Odyssey with Donkey Kong. So that's just really exciting. I don't remember, with the Switch launch, we had Breath of the Wild, and then we had, a little while after, we had about like say, I guess in the same time period, really, maybe a little like a week less, we had Mario Kart 8 Deluxe released on the console. So this really does feel like that. We're having a huge genre defining game in terms of Mario Kart World Open. The Switch, or like the Switch 2's launch cycle and like the lifespan of the console, and then we have a pretty big game following that. And I would even say, like, between Breath of the Wild to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Mario Kart World to Donkey Kong Bonanza, I think we have a little bit of a bigger launch span between those two. So I'm very, very excited. There's gonna be a lot of discussion, I feel like, from at least on my channel, about Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza before the console releases, but even after the console releases, after we see and we're able to play both those games, it's really exciting. And again, as I mentioned, the Treehouse segments really showed off that game really well. I think in the moment, I was obviously just really excited that we're getting into Donkey Kong game, and it's like a 3D Donkey Kong game at that looked like it was made by the Odyssey team. That I wasn't like too focused on what they were showing in the direct. We saw like different clips of it, but I don't think we really saw. They obviously talked a little bit about the destruction, or like they showed a little bit about the destruction in the direct, but I don't think we really saw what the full extent of that would be in action, in a way that the Treehouse showed, and we've been able to see from the gameplay demos. And yeah, and obviously we've been able to see that Cranky Kong is in Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is going to be really cool. It's Cranky Kong in Mario Kart World. We'll have to see about that, but still, I think it's just those two games look really great. I think after I talk about Donkey Kong Bonanza here, I'm going to talk a little bit about Mario Kart World because I haven't really done that yet. But it just really looks really good, and obviously, I think we're gonna see another trailer for the game probably in the next couple weeks. Um, we're probably gonna get a Mario Kart, huge blowout on Thursday tomorrow. And then we're gonna probably focus on that game a lot from like the marketing perspective for Nintendo. But I do think we'll probably get a new trailer for Donkey Kong Bonanza in like late April, early June. I mean, late April, early May. Maybe like around the time of PAX East, so they can show off like some more of the game. Maybe have a different playable demo of PAX East for the game, that has a couple of different areas that we weren't able to see from the recent Treehouse and gameplay demos. But I'm excited to see what more this game has to offer. Um, I'm assuming there's gonna be a lot more for it to offer. Um, than we've seen so far, just because there's probably gonna be a bunch of new locales that we're gonna be able to see in the future. Obviously, they'll probably keep a couple of them secret. If there's like a different area after the game, after you finish the game, maybe they probably won't show that before the game actually launches. But I think we're gonna see a couple of new areas like in the future before the game releases. Maybe there's different mechanics. Maybe we see if like Dixie Kong and Diddy Kong and Funky Kong are also in the game. Maybe they all have like a different thing that like if you interact with them, maybe they can help you in a different way. I think that'd be pretty cool if that happens. But yeah, we haven't really seen much in my opinion of the game yet. So that also makes me very excited, as I've been like alluding to this whole time. It just makes me really excited just for the game. There's a lot to digest about that game. You know, I think honestly, it's probably gonna be my personal game of the year, just by looking at it. Not by playing it at all, but I think that my game of the years are probably gonna come down to Pokemon Legends ZA, Mario Kart World, and Donkey Kong Bonanza, unless something like really surprising comes out of out of like a June Direct, or I really click with Kirby Air Ride or something else. But I think between those three games, those will be my game of the years for the year, which I think that's a pretty good lineup. A pretty great lineup. A new Pokemon, a new 3D Mario adjacent with 3D Donkey Kong, and a new Mario Kart. I mean, I don't really think you can get any better than that. But yeah, I think I've talked about Donkey Kong Bonanza for a very good amount of time here. I do want to talk a little bit more about Mario Kart World before that Direct, and I think by the time this video goes up, the predictions video that I have for Mario Kart World should also be up. But if it isn't yet, it will be linked down in the description once that video goes up. It's possible I uploaded this one at 9 a.m. On Wednesday, and then maybe like at 6 p.m. ET, I'll also have my Mario Kart World predictions. It just depends on how long I want to push those out, because we don't really know much about the Direct yet. It's possible that on Tuesday or Wednesday we also get like the runtime for the Direct. I'm not really waiting for that, just because I think I got in my mind what I want to predict for it. The new characters, new stages. I think we know all of the courses, through the gameplay demos and everything. I think there's been like different screenshots from different regions that have shown a little bit more of the map. So it gives us a little bit more of a sense of what all the courses will be. But like story mode, adventure mode, battle mode, stuff like that. I think we're going to see all those in the Direct. So I want to predict a little bit more about that. So I'm making a different video for that. But we can still talk about it here. So I do want to talk about it. So let's get right into that. So yeah, I want to talk about Mario Kart World now. I want to talk about pretty much our two big games, since we haven't really seen anything from Hyrule Warriors, Age of Imprisonment yet, or Kirby Air Riders. We just saw the initial reveal trailers. So all I can really talk about now, first party wise, is Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, what we've seen of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and Breath of the Wild. And some of the like Metro Prime 4. We've seen a lot about Metro Prime 4 recently, but I want to talk about Mario Kart a little bit here, again, because I will have that predictions video for the Direct, and I will have a reaction for the Direct once it airs. But Something I just want to, Nintendo said that these two games will be franchise defining and genre defining, and I agree with that. You know, maybe a little less with Donkey Kong just because we haven't really seen much of it yet. So I'm not really sure what that will mean in the context of the genre. I know it will be franchise defining, but I don't know about the context in the genre yet. The 3D platformer action adventure genre. It should be really exciting just to see how that turns out. I'm very excited. I guess I mentioned again that I think that's going to be a very good contender for my game of the year, just based on seeing what it looks like and how it's been playing, like how it plays and everything. I think that's going to be a really fun game, just to play through and just see all the secrets and everything. But if you'd asked me in January what I thought would be the launch title for this console, I wouldn't have said Mario Kart. I thought Mario Kart would be like the holiday game. And I guess it's possible. We flipped them. I thought 3D Mario, or in this case, I guess 3D Donkey Kong would have been launch, and then Mario Kart would be in the holiday. Now we're technically in both in launch. We're getting 3D Donkey Kong and Mario Kart at launch. So I think that's actually better for me. Maybe not best. Maybe that's not like the best for making like I mean. Then we also don't know what Nintendo's doing for the holiday. If it is Kirby Air Riders, Metroid Prime 4, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and maybe something else. So maybe makes sense that we aren't really seeing that split between Mario Kart and Donkey Kong. One at holiday, one in the release, but that's a discussion for another day. When we get to our next Nintendo Direct, that will have Nintendo Switch 2 announcements, which again, that's gonna be really interesting. We haven't really had mixed Nintendo Directs since 2018, 2019. I believe since like 2018. We might have had one in 2019, but so I think we're gonna have split Nintendo Directs this time, like going forward, until probably like around like 2027, featuring Nintendo Switch 1 games and Nintendo Switch 2 games. But I think it's mainly gonna focus on Nintendo Switch 2 games, just because, even more so than the previous Directs focused on like 3DS games, just because all these games will be playable on the Switch too. So it makes sense like to show them off on the Switch 2, say they're backwards compatible. Maybe announce them as Switch 1 games, just so you get the message across that these can be played on the Switch 1. But I think that again, that's something for future me to discuss when we get to like a June or a July or like a September Nintendo Direct. But I've been halting our discussion on Mario Kart. That game looks absolutely amazing. Donkey Kong looks absolutely amazing. Mario Kart looks absolutely amazing. I think the Direct did do that one justice. But I don't think we saw like a good amount of it in the Direct and then in Treehouse. I think there's a lot more to it. I think there's gonna be a lot more that we haven't seen yet, and I think that's why they're doing that Nintendo Direct for the game, just because it's just like they made this huge open world, and now it makes sense why it took so long for them to make it. For the longest time, we were wondering if the Switch would ever get like its own exclusive Mario Kart game, and I guess we can call that now Mario Kart Home Circuit. I guess that could be its exclusive, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe obviously was its game for Mario Kart, but that came out in 2017. This game is coming out 8 years after that game, and I think now, obviously, as I mentioned, it makes a lot of sense why it took so long to make for us to get into the Mario Kart. With seeing the ambition and like the vision for this game, everything is interconnected in it. I'm expecting the battle mode to be interconnected. It's possible we haven't seen what those areas for the battle mode look like, and that's why like we obviously haven't seen it yet, because they haven't want to talk about it. So it's possible like those arenas or whatever the area for battle mode takes place in, maybe they haven't really been able to highlight that yet. And that does make me wonder, after it is revealed in the Direct, do we see that at the gameplay demos? Does Nintendo focus on that as well? But we have seen Grand Prix, we have seen Knockout Tour, which I think Knockout Tour will probably be the mode I play the most often. just because it looks like, it looks the most fun to play. And I think that's probably gonna be like the primary online feature. I'm sure like there's gonna be normal racing online and everything, but I think like that, um, like normal racing, knockout tour, and battle mode will probably be like the main online features, alongside like obviously free roam, which I think seeing the world, what the world looks like, again, it makes sense why it's taken so long to make this game. And the ambition and the vision that we're seeing. And, I'm very interested. This is a future discussion for 2025, I mean, 2030 or 2031, when we maybe see like what the next Mario Kart is. I'm interested to see like how they evolve from this. Do we get like a Mario Kart World 2 instead of like a Mario Kart, advanced, like a new Mario Kart entry, really? Do we see like a Mario Kart World 2 that has like new courses, maybe like a larger world to explore, but it does follow like the same vein as this one? Or do we get something new? um you know with like the longer development cycles, I think we're going to be able to see from this game, or from this series, just because them not having really like to having to develop a new Mario Kart for both a handheld and a home console. I think that's giving them a lot more time just to be able to make Mario Kart like as big as possible, and make it as, make the features as developed as possible, and as we see, make as many characters as possible. We got the Moo Moo Cow in the game, um, and I'm, as I will mention in my predictions video, I don't think that is all the characters. I don't think we've seen all of them. I think there's still a good chance that like we haven't seen like Dixie Kong or Diddy Kong or Funky Kong. I think they're possibly all three in the game. We haven't seen Cranky Kong. We haven't seen, we haven't really seen any enemies from Mario Wonder. Not Mario Wonder. Actually, I don't think we've. I don't. Well, we haven't seen, I don't think, any enemies from Mario Wonder or Mario Odyssey. So I wouldn't be surprised if those also make it into the game. We haven't seen like Professor Ead. I think this is probably the perfect time to introduce him into Mario Kart, but there's just still so much to talk about with this game. As I mentioned earlier, the direct did justice. We got the 5 minutes in the direct. We got the initial reveal trailer, and got like the segment. But I think the Treehouse did a lot of like they showed a lot of those features that we saw in the direct, and they made them look so good. They made Knockout Tower look so good. They made the Grand Prix look so good. And it just all looks so exciting. And like I'm glad that's our launch title, because that's just gonna be so fun to play at launch with everybody. And yeah, I think it's just gonna be really, really good. There's not, again, until we get to direct. All I can really say is just the free roam looks really fun. That's like something I think a lot of people have dreamed about for the game, like for Mario Kart, being able to just drive around and visit different locations, and being able to, I'm not even sure like the dream was to like be able to drive to like courses. I think that's like a not even a dream, like a, like what, I don't know what, like a, whatever's above a dream, a masterpiece dream or something like that. I think that's what that is, being able to drive around the courses in free roam without having to like worry about racing. Having possibly like a full-on story mode, being able to do like a battle royale Mario Kart, where like if you don't reach a certain place by like reaching the end of the course, you lose. I wouldn't say you lose, but you place lower than you should. I mean, you place lower than others, obviously, but Knockout Tour, I think that's gonna be like the main mode for this game, and I'm very excited for that. Like in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, obviously like the racing was the main mode, but they did make a lot of advancements to battle mode. And so obviously I don't think a lot of people play battle mode much anymore. But we have 5 battle modes in that game. So obviously was like the large focus. And then obviously as of 2022, them adding another 48 courses to the racing mode. So now we have 96 in that game. But I think Knockout Tour will probably be the focus here. And I think that is the right decision, because, and I'm glad they're still doing Grand Prix, but Knockout Tour definitely seems like that's what's like that's what the free roam is actually evolving from. Because obviously, like, I'm not really sure how to say this, but I think the like being able to drive from course to course makes a lot more sense in Knockout Tour, just because um it's not really sure, but like I think it makes a lot more sense because it's always like you're pretty much racing against everybody else for like that whole time. In Grand Prix, I think it also makes sense, but I think that if you're able to, and I think you are able to um cut out like the sections between when you're driving to each course. I think that's what a lot of people are going to choose to do, just because I think a lot of people just want to race on the actual courses for Grand Prix. But for Knockout Tour, I think, again, as I said, I think that makes a lot more sense, and I think that's what's influencing the open world so much in this game. So I have a lot of my thoughts going all over the place, but I'm just very, very excited for this game. Um, we are 54 days, 50 days away from the release of the console, and we are 50 days away from the actual game's release, which is going to be I think it's going to be really, really fun. Um, Tomorrow we're going to be we're going to be 7 weeks away from the console and the game release, so I'm very, very excited. Um, but there's a couple more games I guess we can talk about, and then I will end this by talking about the console itself. I probably should have began talking about the console itself, but um, you know, there hasn't been really too much about the console since the direct. So we found out a lot more about the game, a lot of more about the games since the direct. It did give a very good look at the console in the direct, with all of its different features and everything. So it makes sense that we really haven't heard much about it since then, but we've seen a lot of like people using it and being able to play on it and everything. I think the games look absolutely beautiful on the screen of the console. But I guess the other game I could talk about, I guess we have a couple of games we could talk about. The Zelda games, I won't talk about them too much, just because there's not like there's not like a new story or anything for those games, but they still look they look absolutely beautiful on the console. Um, I believe it's confirmed that they are running at 1080 60. I don't think they're like running at 120 FPS, but I think it's confirmed they're running at 180, not 1080, full HD on like when you're playing in dock mode, and then maybe like 720. Or no, maybe they're running at 1080 on both. No, it might be 4K on the console itself, like when you're in docked mode, and then 1080 on the console. I think that might be it, in both in 60 frames per second. That's really exciting. The game looks absolutely beautiful, and it looks beautiful from like off-screen gameplay and like gameplay we've seen in the direct. So it doesn't even I'm not even saying that from perspective of even playing the game, which I'm expecting it to even look even better in person. But like I think the visual enhancements and like the performance enhancements are probably the main things they focused on here. Admittedly, I haven't finished Tears of the Kingdom yet, and I have been waiting for just to play it on the Switch 2 when the Switch 2 releases. And I think with the new features they've added to it, they're really small, but being able to like transfer over some of your items and your rupees from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom, I think that's what's really gonna push me back into it, because I think that's been like my main thing. I don't have a lot of rupees in Tears of the Kingdom. And I played like 80 hours of it, but I didn't get, I think I got to like the 4th boss, and then I took a little break from it. I just didn't return to it. I think being able to pretty much, I guess, elevate my playthrough a little bit by being able to move some of my stuff over from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom will help pull me back in, outside of just the visuals. But there's also the like Zelda notes that you can like run around Hyrule and collect, and they're like guided by the Nintendo Switch app. I'm not sure if it's called the Nintendo Switch Online app anymore. I think they renamed it, maybe just the Nintendo Switch app. But you can still you can use it, and it will help you find these the Zelda notes, and it helps. I think it's gonna help expand the lore a little bit, and that's like the main reason why they did that. But I think that's really exciting. You know, I found all the memories in Tears of the Kingdom, so I think I am gonna try to find all the Zelda notes. We'll have to see about that, but I think it's gonna be really cool. And then obviously being able to like um, download like blueprints of other like Zonai creations that people have made, and then try to bring them to your game. I think it's been really cool. And then I haven't really seen much of Breath of the Wild. I think the main thing that they're adding for Breath of the Wild is Zelda notes, and then being able to like move your pictures directly from your console to the app, which is something, you know, I'll talk about that in a little bit. But you can now move your photos from the Switch 2 to the app without having to scan a QR code, and I think that's also really exciting. I'm sure they could have probably maybe done that on the Switch, but being able to just do that, I think it's really, you know, that simplifies it a lot. Because I do like moving my screenshots over, so just being able to move them over now easily like that. I believe it's like the first. I believe it's like the latest 100 photos and screenshots and videos. So it's gonna be really exciting. You can do that within your games now, I believe, as well. But yeah, you know, I think the main pull, besides like the smaller features of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, will be that it looks absolutely beautiful on the Switch 2. You know, I think it's gonna look absolutely amazing in handheld mode, and that's probably gonna be the main mode where I play it in. So I'm just very, very excited for that. You know, I probably will download the upgrade packs when they release on launch day. Um, you know, I have NSO expansion packs, so I'll be able to get those ones for free. So I'll probably just download them, play them, maybe finally finish Tears of the Kingdom. But they look absolutely amazing. And then we have one more first party game at launch, and that is Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. I know there's been like a lot of discussion about if it should have been like a pack-in, or because I think it's gonna release at $10, so maybe it should have been a pack-in. I think that's been like a lot of the discussion recently. But seeing so many people play it and seeing all of the you know, so what we saw from Treehouse and seeing all of like the reactions to it, like after people have played it, I'm really excited for it. I think it's gonna be something that I don't think it's gonna be like a super long game or anything. You know, I think it's definitely just gonna be a lot of it's gonna be like learning what the features are for the console, and you know, the magnets and how the magnets work and how HD Rumble 2 works and everything. But I think in general, you know, a game like that is like something that's made for me in some ways. Just like something short, something that's, you know, you're learning a lot from it. You know, and it's like a mini games, a collection of sorts. You know, just able to just pop in, do maybe a couple of like smaller sections of the game. You know, a couple mini games, maybe collect a couple medals, and then log off and go play Mario Kart for a little bit. I think that's how I'm gonna use it. I don't think I'm gonna be finish it like I don't think I'm gonna finish it all in one like go, unless Mario Kart's taking a very long time to download or to like start up, or like the online isn't available at that point. Early, like at the moment the console releases or anything. But I think I'm definitely gonna play it. I'm very I mean, obviously I think I'm more excited for like Mario Kart and Donkey Kong, but that game does look really fun. I think it would have been cool if it was a pack-in, but seeing just how intriguing it is and how interesting I think it's gonna be to play, I'm very, very excited to play it, and you know, just go through it. You know, see how the technology in the console works and everything. But yeah, I think I'll play it. I think I'm gonna get it on launch. Again, you know, maybe when I'm on a little break from Mario Kart, I'll just pop into that and play for like 10-20 minutes or something like that. Obviously we've seen a lot of other games first party wise. I haven't really talked much about third party games, and that's just because a lot of the third party games that we are going to see on the console are ones that we've already like have already released on other consoles. So seeing like, obviously I think we've seen Civ 7's mouse mode demoed, which is really cool. Mouse mode is really cool, but I can't really talk much about those just because, you know, they obviously look really great on the console, but you know, there isn't like those are like super new features, or like I would definitely get some of them, but there isn't like a lot of like new features that are like Switch 2 exclusive, or all I can say is they all look really good on the console. I think that's like the highest praise you could probably give them, being that they are like a lot of them are like late ports to the Switch too. Um, I think looking really great on the console is, I think that's like a very exciting point of view. But I think the last couple games I want to talk about, like Pokemon Legends EA is getting a performance, not a performance, an upgrade pack, which I'm very excited for. Um, if Mario Kart and Donkey Kong wasn't like the reason why I want to get the console at launch, Pokemon is. I want to, and I think I phrased that wrong. If Mario Kart and Donkey Kong weren't at launch, I would probably be waiting for Pokemon, but those are at launch, so I want to play those. But Pokemon, and being able to play it at launch and being able to play it at presumably 60 frames per second with like upgraded visuals and everything, I think that's just gonna be really awesome. And then being able to even be able to go back to play Scarlet and Violet a little bit and see how like the free updates are gonna work on that game. Maybe it does run a lot better on the console. I think it's been really exciting. But we haven't seen any gameplay of that at these demo events, so there's not really much more I could say about that. The other three, I think, games we've seen, or four games, is Dragon Drive, which there hasn't really been a lot that we've seen after the direct for that game. It's just been, like the normal back and forth gameplay that we saw in the direct, but it does look really intuitive. It does look really cool. I'm very excited to play that. I'm hoping, in a future direct or, like an overview trailer or something like that, we do find out a little bit more about the game, because there isn't really a lot that we know about it yet. But right now, it looks really cool. Again, it looks like something I'm going to play. I'm hoping there's enough content to like keep pulling me back to the game instead of like it being like maybe like a couple of hours and then I don't really go back to it. But we'll see about that. The game looks really cool at the moment, so I'm very excited about that. And then there's Mario Party Jamboree plus Mario Party Jamboree TV. That looks really cool. Again, I think that is like we see there's a mouse demo with, I guess, Welcome Tour is like there's gonna be like a mouse demo in that. We see that there is the visually like a visual enhancement demos, kind of with Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. But now we see there's a camera demo of some sort with Jamboree TV, and I think that's like the main thing about the Jamboree TV. Being able to like have mini games attached to the camera and being able to, I think there's also mouse controls. So I'm kind of treating Jamboree TV as like the main demo of the new features on the Switch too. We have the mouse mode in that game. We have the camera mini games. We're gonna have, I think, some motion controls games, and then also like a feature that uses the microphone. So I think that's all really cool. I will get the upgrade just because I want to see how all that works. But I think that like Mario Party, and I think I'm gonna like in the same vein, Kirby and Forgotten Land. That is one of my favorite games on the Switch, so it's really awesome seeing it get a update and being able to see it like get a whole new like story of some sort. Like it's probably not gonna be as big of a story as like the main game is, but being able to see like it's getting an expansion of sorts, just to be able to revisit the world in a different way than we did in the actual main story. I think that's just really cool. And yeah, so I'm glad that they're upgrade packs and not like you don't have to like buy them separately just for like those extra features. So I'm happy about that. But the last game I guess we could talk about for now, until we get to a direct, or we get to another announcement sooner than later, would be Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. That game looks absolutely stunning on the Switch too. Again, and that I'm saying that just from the perspective of seeing like direct footage and seeing like treehouse footage and off-screen footage. It looks great in that footage. I can't really imagine what it's going to look like actually on the console itself in person. So I think that's really cool. And then we have it confirmed that it's going to have performance and visual modes. So a 1080 in 120 FPS and then a 4K in 60 FPS modes. That's really awesome. And then I believe like it's the level lower for the handheld. So 4K moved down to 1080, and then 1080 will move down to 720, depending on which if you're playing in visual or performance mode. That game looks really good. Again, I think we're gonna see a lot more of it in the next couple of weeks, in the next couple of months, because I think it's gonna come out maybe like in August or September. So I think we'll probably see it again in June, maybe May. But I think we may get a release date soon for that game. You know, maybe around the time of PAX East, because I'm assuming the game's probably gonna be demoed there. But I think like the latest we'll see a date for it would be in like June or July. But yeah, you know, the game looks absolutely amazing. And again, I think I'm really happy that those games again are like like Pokemon Legends CA and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond are getting like an upgrade pack, just because those are like the main Switch games for this year. So I think a lot of people would like love to be able to play those on your Switch and then have like an upgraded version on your Switch too. And so I'm glad they're doing that, and I'm hoping they do that with like other games that we see released on the Switch. You know, we have Tomodachi Life Living the Dream confirmed, and we have Rhythm Heaven Groove confirmed. I'm not really sure there's gonna be like a lot you could really do performance mode for those, because presumably those are gonna both run at like the maximum performance on the Switch. So, you know, maybe we get like 4K versions of those games, but I'm glad they're going back. You know, even like at launch, we're gonna have upgrade packs for those games. But yeah, that is all really I really have to talk about the games for now. You know, after the direct for Mario Kart, I'm assuming we're gonna have a lot more to talk about Mario Kart. But I just want to end just talking about the console a little bit. I think the console looks really good. You know, I'm glad it has like the built-in microphone, and I think that, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I think that the top USB Type-C is gonna be really cool for like accessories. You know, being able to connect like the microphone, not microphone, the camera, and then maybe like an upgraded microphone of some sort. But I think that it's gonna be like an accessories main. Like you can obviously charge your console using that port as well, but I think it's gonna be like that, like charging it, and then like an accessory, like little extension. You know, and that's gonna be really interesting to see what they do with that. You know, again, we have the camera confirmed that we'll be using that, but do we have like you know, the highly hoped for, highly sought for after like the screen attachment or something like that? That's gonna be really cool just to see how Nintendo uses that. But I think that is gonna be something that Nintendo mainly uses. I don't really know if third parties are gonna use that often. You know, speaking of the camera, we've obviously seen a lot more of Game Chat. Sorry, I had to remember, because that's also what I named this channel after now. Game Chat. So now it's Amar's Game Chat. But we've seen a lot more of Game Chat, which looks really cool. So I think the Switch looks really cool. The games look really cool. Again, I'm gonna have a lot more to talk about as we get closer to launch and we find a little bit more about the console. You know, I think there's like Joy-Cons look really cool. Just everything looks really cool on it. So, but that is all I really have for you all today. I just wanted to make this video since we are 2 weeks past the direct now. So, maybe that's how I will do for the next couple weeks. Maybe every 2 weeks I'll upload a video talking about the console a little bit, talking about some of the games that we've seen since then. You know, and then maybe as we get closer, I will like obviously make a lot more videos until launch happens. But that is all I have for you all today. So I hope you all enjoyed this little discussion video that I did for the Nintendo Switch 2 and its games. But, well, mainly first-party games. Not all its games, but first-party games. And I will see you in the next one. So make sure you make you happy, because it rhymes with generic happy. If you have any of your own thoughts on the Switch 2, please leave them down in the comments below. But yeah, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.